Hey, corporate leaders. I'm so glad you're joining me today. I am Rachel O'Mara, and today we're going to get into what does it mean to master your emotional intelligence, or your EQ, as I like to say, as a woman leader in corporate, right? And I was thinking about this today. There's so much to talk about, I think, but the overall idea is that there's many things, right? And emotional intelligence is this whole idea of becoming more aware, deepening your awareness on yourself so that you can also do some really great, powerful moves as a leader, which I want to talk about. So I broke this down into three things. I think there's three major benefits, and then those can get broken down into a lot of different things. So the first thing, I think, when it means to master your emotional intelligence, one thing that really happens, I think, is you get a seat at the table. And I think as women, we all know that that can be challenging, where we're not used to maybe being encouraged to speak up, or maybe you are fearing what others might be judging you as if you were to continue to make your point or feel like a broken record. Either way, I think when you are able to deepen that awareness about yourself, you can be more available to know what you need to be seen and heard, and literally have a seat at the table. You also then hold yourself with more presence and confidence. Who doesn't want more presence and confidence, right? That is infectious and contagious. So you begin to become inspiring for others. I think all this really boils down into using your voice, being heard and seen, and using that voice to speak up for boundaries of what you want, for saying what maybe you don't agree with, right? Speaking up, and then knowing, okay, well, here's my blocks around this, or my beliefs around this. Overall, though, this big thing, I think getting a seat at the table, it can really, really help inspire you as a leader to know that, hey, you deserve that seat. You are born to shine, be seen and heard. And the way to get there is through knowing what you could do differently. And that, to me, is raising your awareness and knowing you're so capable. And it's really just about getting your head around, how do I show up to be that present leader, to be confident in myself so that others can do that? Because that's the big thing. If you don't have that, if you don't feel confident, you might feel a little bit like you are maybe not as present as you wanted to be, because you're thinking about things that happened yesterday or in the beginning. Like, I know that was me a lot, just kind of fretting, running back and forth when I was working on my own challenges before I really burned out of Google and took that time off that I needed. But overall, it's all about, okay, making that choice. I do deserve to be seen and heard. I can have a seat at the table. Not only can I have a seat at the table, but I deserve to be at the table. And so really getting our head around that mental attitude and embracing that and embodying that, I think, is what it means to master your EQ as a leader. Because my sense is we aren't at the table if we don't have a really strong hold on our own self-awareness. We just don't. So that's number one. Okay, getting a seat at the table. Number two, what does it take to master your EQ as a woman in corporate? All right, so this one I love, because to me, this is kind of the golden ticket. I feel like it is the golden ticket. And imagine you are holding a treasure map, right? Like, just like the old days, back in the pirate days, the Pirates of Penzance days, where there's this treasure map and you have the route to find the pot of gold, to find the treasure, the things that are not able to be seen or found by the ordinary person, right? It takes a pirate to do that. So I'm not calling you a pirate, don't worry. But another way to think about it is, like, when you master your emotional intelligence, to me, that's like a secret, almost like a secret hidden superpower you possess. Okay. And let me explain why. And I'm curious, if you feel like you have a good grasp of this, awesome. Like, you're so headed in the right direction. And this is how it relates. So imagine this treasure map you have, or the secret, like, knowledge you have, where you now can read the room, whatever maybe meeting you're sitting in or leading, you know what's going on. You might know individuals, what they're feeling, what they're sensing, what they're even thinking sometimes, right? Because you can read body language, you can read expressions. So now you have this heightened sense of, okay, like, let me check in with these folks. I don't know if they're getting me right now. Or maybe you're sensing a tremendous amount of resistance, right? This is the things that can come along with knowing this awareness, because you're able to not only know what's going on with you, but to know what's going on in the room. Right? Okay. So this treasure map can help you do that. And then what else happens is that you get to sense who's holding the anxiety, right? Like who's the person in the room that might be holding the anxiety. And let me explain what I mean about that. I work a lot with systems theory, and my trainings in that with systems theory and group dynamics and all of that combined. And one of the theories about systems is that anxiety can be passed from person to person. How cool is that, right? Or maybe not cool, like a little crazy. So there is a person usually within a group that will function as the person who holds that tension and anxiety, right? Maybe they blurt out an answer really fast or laugh. Laughing is a great diffuser of anxiety. As someone who's mastering your emotional intelligence, you tune in and know that immediately, because you can sense potentially how they're holding themselves, or maybe they're deflecting the questions or laughing or afraid to be silent. Right. And then there's others that are just the opposite of that. They pass the anxiety because it's not their job. They're not conscious of this, of course, but they're not able to know and be capable of saying, okay, I'm going to be okay and hold the anxiety because I know I'm secure here. I know I don't need to say anything. And I'm going to see what happens when we actually get into it, because I know I'm okay with that fear and anxiety of not knowing what's happening. There's so much more to say about this, everyone. But I think this is a good start, because I think when you start to think about like, wow, these are the things I can unlock, worlds start to open up, literally like the treasure map unfolds, right? Okay, so those are two things. And then something else I was thinking about is that you notice how you're doing. Like you actually can check in with yourself in a moment by moment basis, like literally spontaneously say, okay, oh my gosh, I just felt a rush of something in my mind to my heart, and my heart's beating faster. That must mean I'm flustered and my hands are sweating, and I'm going to respond accordingly, right? This all happens within like nanoseconds, right? But because you get to know how you're doing, because you're so keen and aware, right? You might know how you feel, like you might feel that fear, that anxiety, that excitement. You can respond in a way that feels really good, and that feels really like it moves things forward for you, as opposed to, right, the opposite. So what if you were to react, right? Maybe a knee-jerk reaction, you get in a huff, you get triggered, you don't see someone eye to eye or really understand what's going on. And we've all done that. That's kind of what happens when we aren't that cued into our awareness. So all of these things are incredible gifts, I'll call it, when we have this understanding and a better understanding of our own EQ, our own mastering of our intelligence. I'm curious what you are thinking about right now. Like think about your own life right now, right? Can you read the room? And if you can, terrific. Do you know who holds the anxiety? And can you notice how you're doing, and then respond in the moment in a way that moves something forward? It might be the conversation. It might mean project. I don't know. It could be anything like that. But this is your superpower when you start to really go deeper into the depths of unlocking your EQ, mastering it, if you will. Okay. So there you go. That's number 2. You got the treasure map, and you can even say that to myself or yourself. I have the treasure map. Let's talk about the third thing. What does it mean to master your EQ as a woman in corporate? I would say overall, I mean, this is kind of a blanket statement, but I'm just going to go with it, because overall, you improve these skills that make you a better leader in the world, right? You improve everything. And so a couple of examples of this, you are, and this is a big one, you're more attuned to what's going on. Attunement, who knows what attunement is, right? Like we've heard this word before, probably. It is an emotional intelligence term. It really just means, are you in sync with others in the room? Are you reading them correctly? And it might not just be a big room, it might be a one-on-one conversation, but you might be able to tell that the person feels connected to you in the moment, and you can, in return, feel connected to that person. So you can become more attuned to others, and then that builds rapport, it creates trust, and you feel like you're with them, and they feel like they're with you. And there's so much more as well. There's so much in each one of these. I feel like they could all be their own separate subjects, but better attunement can certainly really help you, because then people start to listen better. Okay. And that's the second thing I think that really improves. So not only you become a better listener because you're really intent and present for someone, right? You're maybe making eye contact with them, or even if you're on an online meeting, you're fully present. You're not multitasking. You're not taking emails. You're not checking your phone, right? And we kind of all know what that's like. If we see or receive that on the other side, you can kind of tell. And if you can't tell, that probably means you could even be more present so that you were aware. And it's a skill, like I said, so we can all develop it. And so that's really everything, I think. And there's probably even more. If you have more suggestions around what it means to master your EQ as a woman in corporate, I think that I know I would love to hear from you. So just in recap, real quick, these 3 things: you get a seat at the table. For women, this is huge, right? Like a lot of times we don't feel like we have a seat at the table, or we feel like we are overextending ourselves. Maybe we're taking on too much. So people kind of dump their projects on us, or we pick things up for others. Maybe that's the case, but maybe you're starting to use your voice to speak up, to earn respect, to earn the right to show up differently, right? And you get underneath those blocks that might be in the way of that. Number 2 is you've got this treasure map / superpower that you're able to then do things that wouldn't even occur to folks who weren't really keen to master their EQ. You read the room better. You can see who holds the anxiety, different roles people play within a group. It's like this group dynamic superpower even. You can tell how you're doing, so then you respond better and you can meet people where they're at. You have better conversations. You're a better influencer. You're more productive. Like, these are great, great benefits. And then the third thing is you just improve overall as a leader, meaning you're better attuned, you have better listening skills. And all of that leads to building trust and rapport. You might be able to meet people in mutuality, right? There's no superiority. There's no one-upping people. There's no putting people down, because you're above that. Like, you are where you meet people, whatever and wherever they are. All right. So I said a lot, but I hope that that was helpful. And trust me, I have grown myself a lot as a woman in corporate. And I think all of these are learnable, because I'm pretty sure even with my MBA and all the crazy training I had that was not around this subject, they don't teach you this. They didn't teach me this anyway in grad school or undergrad or in any class. This comes with adaptability to learn about yourself. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to master your own EQ, because you can see what happens. Basically, your leadership takes off and you start to feel more confident. Your engagement really lights up. You fire on all 8 cylinders as opposed to maybe 4 or 5. And we don't burn out. It's so, so good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you need some help, you need some support, you want to shout out for helping yourself with mastering your EQ, I'd love to know. Leave me a message on the audio here on anchor.fm/thepodcast, or let me know. Just drop me a message. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on anywhere, any of the social media channels, basically. Thanks so much, everyone, and all the best. I'm excited for you to master your EQ. Keep going.